of the Moscone Cup. Hopefully, you guys can go and hear us after. I don't want to say it was a long 4 days. It was a fun 4 days, depending on which side you're on. But it was some captivating pool, some pretty great standard, and Team Europe obviously got the win today. If you guys haven't heard by now, by the score of 11-6, Mike. Just let everybody know we are joined by Mr. Panozzo again of Billiards Digest. Mike, just let me know what your initial thought was after today, and just overall with the cup.
Yeah, I felt better today than I did yesterday. Yesterday was a bad day on a lot of fronts, from us questioning, Shane's leadership to questioning decisions on, calling for a ball cleaning from losing 5 matches in a row. It was yesterday was not a fun day for any of us. So, but today, I mentioned in the podcast this morning, I was really interested to see how Shane came out, because he had to feel the heat from yesterday. I mean, I don't know if he spends much time on social media or not, or whether the other players talked to him, or Jeremy talked to him. So we don't know what they all talked about last night. But I thought they came out today, and we went with our top 2 guys for the first 3 matches, and unfortunately came up on the short end. But I thought they played well. I thought in the doubles they had a chance to win the doubles. And Shane missed that 2. It was a tough shot. I'm not sure, it wasn't the easiest out from there, because the 3 was on the bottom rail from what I remember. So, it wasn't going to be, and he broke the 3 up when he missed the 2. So then it was lights out from there. So,
it was a tough one though. Tough one.
It was a really tough one. And so, it just, and then Sky played jam up against Jason. Sky, he's, this stage is kind of made for him. It seems like he relishes the moment. Shane doesn't like it. Shane still is best player in the world, but he doesn't like this format. He doesn't like that stage particularly, and sometimes it shows. Sky, other side of the coin, he loves it, and he bears down. And he took Jason out. Jason was rolling high, and had the MVP locked up.
Jason made a lot of mistakes there once. Once he got up 2-0, it felt like he saw the finish line. He saw the MVP in sight, but to Sky's credit, I mean, Sky wasn't laying down, and I think you really saw, who's number 1 for Team USA in this Moscone Cup, and I don't think there's any question anymore, Mike. Not just with the record, but with the tough shot. I think in the doubles, there was times in that matchup, especially early on with that jump shot, where Sky said, "This is what I'm doing. This is what I like, and this is what I want to do," and he went with it, and I like him taking control like that. Boy, was he clutch. And I know it was kind of one of those deals where it's too little too late, because you start off losing the first match and they're already on the hill. But I think there's a lot of things to go and be positive about. I like Shane's demeanor. I like his body language was a lot better. I don't know if that was for show or maybe they had a talk with Jeremy, but either way it was promising. There was a lot of optimism there just from looking at Shane.
And he played better. He played well against Josh. I mean, they went toe to toe. It was, just who won the leg. So, it was just, today was an encouraging day. And you're right. Sky is the number 1 guy for Team USA when it comes to the Moscone Cup. In the 2 years that they won, Shane played great, but Sky was the best. So, and I think the Europeans will tell you that when it comes to the Moscone Cup, the guy that they don't want to see out there drawn against them is Sky. And it was, again, like I said, it was a little more encouraging today. I felt a little bit better going forward about what we're looking at with Team USA, and Sky's the leader. And I think Jeremy's certainly going to get another shot next year to run the ship. And we'll see how Shane reacts, whether Shane, he's such a great player. He doesn't like this, but he has said before, he didn't want to play anymore. He didn't care if he played in another Moscone Cup. It just, he just doesn't enjoy it. But those 2 years that they won had to feel pretty good. So he knows what that feels like again. And we'll see how he comes out next year.
I know there's a lot of things, at least today, like I said, to go and take positively when it comes to Shane. But I want to, for a second, just take that name away.
Yep.
Take away the name Shane. Look at percentages, Mike. You know, is there upside in filling that spot? Is there upside if at least taking a swing, rolling the dice of, someone else and take that spot?
Take what spot?
Take that, like, in other words, take that Shane spot, essentially,
And
other
not
words,
have him on
like,
the team.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Just based on
speculation.
Like,
Yeah. Based on percentages. No, I don't think it's worth taking a swing because the percentages after him are worse. So his percentages are not great. But if you look at the percentages from 3, 4, and 5 in the last 4 or 5 years, even the 2 years they won, not great. So Shane at 50% is still better than our number 4 and our number 5 at 100%. So, I don't think there's any way you're a better team without him.
Yeah, I said that earlier. I think it was towards the beginning, whenever we kind of saw him stumble a little bit, where it was more of like, we hold Shane to a completely different standard, because
no doubt
he's not only the American number 1, but in a lot of people's minds, he's the best player on earth. So even if he's, let's say, 70% or an 80% of what he's capable of, that's still going to be better than a ton of other guys.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And listen, he's going to miss balls, and he's always going to draw the toughest guys. So I don't mind it. I don't mind him missing balls. I don't even mind him losing matches. The thing that turns this whole thing around to me is if somehow or another they can get Shane's head, if they get Sky's body on Shane's head, you know what I'm saying? If they can get Shane to be, to embrace, to just react differently. And it's almost like, okay, does someone need to sit him down and say, okay, let's work on, he's mentally tougher than anybody in the world.
Sky
you see it in the long
with
races.
People. Sky thrives with the crowd. He thrives on emotion. He thrives in moments. It doesn't matter. I think you said it earlier perfectly, where it doesn't matter who was on the European side of it. None of them want to go and face that kid.
No.
And he doesn't go, like, a name does not go and intimidate him. Like, Shane might go and intimidate guys, just the name Shane and him being there. Nobody goes and gets in Sky's head. And Sky's just got this confidence about him, not cockiness, but confidence about him, where he just execute when the time is tough. I mean, over and over again, you saw it today. And I know it was a small sample size, Mike, but I like him being the staple and kind of being being our Jason Shaw.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And I'm not saying Shane, I wouldn't want Shane to try to act like Sky. It's not his personality. What I mean is they need to somehow get Shane to change his demeanor when things aren't going well.
Right.
And they need him to be more confident in himself. They need him to be more of a, not a rah-rah, but more supportive of his teammates and encouraging of his teammates, and not, an eye roller or a head shaker. And, he's close. There's just something, if he goes into this saying, he
has to be conscious about it, though, Mike. He has to be aware in that moment.
He does have to be aware. So
you can go and talk about it all you want, leading up to it. But whenever you're in a pinch, Mike, you have to be aware of how you're coming across the people.
No doubt about it. And that's kind of what I mean. I mean, I think he learned that this year by trying to kid himself into thinking that he wanted to be vice captain. And I think that was kind of almost a step in that direction of, okay, I'm going to take a leadership role. I'm going to embrace the guys. And I thought, that's great. Even if he doesn't play well, if he's in there doing that, it means a lot to a Chris Robinson and a Chris Reinhold and a Tyler Steyer to have him in their corner and encouraging them, even if he's not playing well. He's got to learn how to do that. He's got to learn how to separate his personal, disappointment in himself or in his teammates and make it less visible. He's got to just learn how to do that. And if he can make that little mental switch, his game is fine. And like I said, he may still lose matches playing Jason and Filler every freaking time he goes out there. But if he can adjust his mentality to be a little bit, even if it's just for the Moscone Cup, okay, for this week, I'm going to be a different person. and you're right. Recognize those moments and know how to get through them in the proper way. Then the whole team becomes more dangerous.
Is Sky the only one that can hold them accountable? Like what Shane would be to Earl, is Sky that guy that can hold Shane accountable to?
I would have thought so, except Sky and Shane had their moment earlier this year that seemed to fester for quite a while, as far as their relationship with each other. So you've got to have that mutual respect. So it's I'm not sure who can hold Shane accountable. Mentally, to me, Shane's got to hold himself accountable, and that for his actions on and off the table and the way he treats his teammates. And if he can manage that, he doesn't need anybody to tell him anything. He's a great player, and he knows all he needs to know. He just needs to get his head a little straight. That's all. Then I think the whole team becomes more dangerous because a positive and excited Shane is that's what you want.
Who knows? Because we really haven't seen it. Like, I think all they would have is upside if his demeanor would go and change. Like they may go and play the same way, Mike, but you know what? It can't be any worse than what it was. Because if that positive energy and just that positive way of thinking, it can go and really just springboard into something that could be pretty special at crucial moments, not just in the match, but in the overall. Yeah. And he could inspire those kids, Mike. He really can.
He's got to realize that that's his role going forward. And like I said, I think he tried to think maybe I could do that this year by being vice captain. And if they were winning, I think it would have gone great. But when they were losing, he found out maybe I'm not ready for this role yet. And so he's got to learn from it. And I think
that's
he will.
Word, Mike. He's got to learn.
Yeah, you got to learn. And so we'll see. He's got another year to get through it, and he'll go back and he'll start pounding everybody like a drum in the tournaments around the world.
Right.
And he'll play some long matches where he'll just grind and shoot the lights out and break like a monster. And his game's not going to suffer. His game's never suffered from Moscone Cup defeats and Moscone Cup, not great showings. It's never affected his game after December 7th. Or whenever the tournament ends, so you never worry about that with him. To me, it's just all a mental battle.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I just want to, first of all, thank everyone in the chat who's tuning in and who's putting comments out there. One that was interesting to me, Mike, and I want to get your take on it now that it's over. There was a lot of uproar and just a lot of opinions about the 4-inch pockets, Mike. So I want to know, what are your thoughts about it now? Do you think it made it more entertaining? There was some misses at big spots in this Moscone Cup, and I don't know whether or not that was nerves or just the miss overall. Personally, I enjoyed it a lot, Mike.
Yeah, I did too. I have no problem with it. I've said before, 4.25 to me was fine. It still makes it a tough run out, and people got to hit the middle of the pocket under pressure. But I thought these guys played pretty well, a lot of them, with those 4-inch pockets. I will say that from what I saw, Pat Fleming's been sending me the Accustats performance averages on the matches. And they're not as high as they've been in the past, in the years where it was buckets or even, 4.25. So, but that's, if that's the standard for these events now, that's good. People got to learn how to hit the middle of them. And it made for some exciting matches, and it made for some, exciting moments. And I think I mentioned before, to me, the fact that you saw people missing some of these shots on those 4-inch pockets made the really good runouts and the really great shots even more spectacular to me. When you saw someone make those long angle, tough angle cut shots, or, running something down the rail with speed because they needed to get the cue ball on the table and they were hitting the pocket, that to me was really impressive, more impressive than watching it on a 4.5-inch pocket. No doubt about it.
Yeah, I know that there were moments whenever I'd be watching a Moscone Cup or a Matchroom event where once it was open,
just throw them
once
in.
they had it was over with. Yeah, because and it was a foregone conclusion that those balls were in the hole. I don't have that anymore whenever I watch, whenever there's a 4-inch pocket out there, because those shots really become massive. The way that they can go and hit the ball. I think there was a 8-ball, if I'm not mistaken, in the doubles match with Sky and Shane, where he said, I played it this way because I didn't want to punch it and threaten to go and jaw it up. So they really have to be aware of it, when otherwise it may have been, it may have just been, whatever's going to go and happen. That ball's going to be in there.
Well, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Mike.
No, I think it's, early on, I thought one of my concerns about the 4-inch packets was it going to change the game? Was it going to change the way these guys play? And if it did too much, then I didn't like it. Right. And it did change their games a little bit. I mean, there were, they had to play shots a little bit differently when in a bigger packet, they'd slam it in and cheat it, and you just couldn't do that here. But I still think that they played pretty close to their normal run out games. They just had to be a little more, given the pressure and all that stuff. I mean, you had John Schmidt on the other night, and you talked about the Chris Reinhold miss in the doubles match with Jeremy. And he said, as soon as I saw him draw back real long with his backstroke, I was like, no, don't try to muscle this in. Just finesse it. Just finesse it and cinch it. That, you just need to keep the cue ball on the table and you're out. And so it did make the players, you saw some players think a little bit differently about how they approach shots, but to me, it didn't change the game so much that I wasn't watching good run out 9-ball anymore.
I think what I really appreciated and got nervous about, I guess you would say, is that it left for a lot more tougher shots, because they weren't going to make it they weren't going to make it go and dance as much to try to force it or maybe cheat a pocket, like I said earlier. So they, there was times where they're going to have a little bit of tester. Now it's like, okay, they got to go and bear down and put it down.
And the slick cloth, I think, affected, it left a lot tougher shots, because it was a lot harder for them to just get, dead straight every time they wanted to get dead straight. It was not easy. And so they got left with, tougher shots. It was, I think I'll concede, I think it did make it more exciting, and the standard of play was still high enough, and they didn't change the game so much that I didn't feel like I was watching what I usually watch. So if they want to stick with 4, I don't have to shoot, I'm in.
I want to change gears here for a minute, Mike, and for my money, Sky's going to be a lock. I'd be shocked if Shane's not going to be there even still. Besides that, I know there's been talk about having it be more of a certain number of events, a point system for Team USA. I know we haven't gotten that list yet, if there's going to be one, but I know there's been a lot of talk about it. How optimistic are you for 22? Do you think, this, and I know it's 11-6 and it's a 5-game swing.
Yeah.
I got a lot of, hope for next year.
Yeah, I do too. I think that there's coming here, they certainly caught the Europeans' attention this year when the Euros thought that they were just going to be a runaway. So I think that helps the U.S. players thinking, they
got their respect, Mike. You can't go, because those first 2 days they got the Europeans' respect. They knew that they weren't going to be.
Alex even said, he told his team, he said, let these guys inspire you. Look what happened when you really bear down and you really have belief in yourself.
They thought they were stealing.
They did think they were stealing, and they all kind of admitted it. So as far as next year goes, I think we've got a chance. As far as selection process goes, to me, in the U.S., it doesn't make any difference. You can put any selection process you want in there, because even in Europe, they won't. I don't think they'll do more than 2 automatic spots, maybe 3. But so if you do,
I like 3, Mike.
I do too. But in Europe, that makes 3 makes things really dicey for those guys who are used to playing every year. In the U.S., doesn't affect it at all. You know who your 1 and 2 are going to be? Shane and Sky. So in any point ranking, they're going to be the top 2 guys anyway. So they're going to get, they're going to get the automatic spots. So then you're still using wild cards to fill out the team.
Yeah, I mean, like, let's say you go and have someone else outside of the big 2 who aren't going to be, let's say, a leader of that point. You are automatics for the captain's pick. Like, in other words, if let's say like a Bergman or a Tyler go and get the point system, then it's no question that Shane and Sky are going to be picked for the captain's choice. You know?
But what I'm saying is that it's almost certain that those two automatic spots are going to go to Shane and Sky, and then you're still just going captain's picks for the rest of the team, anyways. You know, and if someone finishes first or second or even third in the points on a list for the year, and the list has good tournaments that are good representation, then yeah, I'm going to want them on the team anyway. So you're still going to end up with two wild card picks that are going to be, I mean, Europe wild card picks are Jason Shaw. Okay. American wild card pick is never going to be Shane, ever. So, because he's always going to make the team automatically. So, so it's just kind of like two different, it's two different approaches for the two different continents and how a system affects their picks.
I know you touched base on it earlier, Mike, and I just want to, dive a little deeper. What are your thoughts on Jeremy Jones and how he captained this American team this year?
Yeah, I thought that he just, like I said this morning too, he showed so much heart and so much grit, and just that match, just alone in those two matches, the doubles match and then the singles match against Alcade. If you're a teammate and you watched him go out there and do that, you will go to war with this guy. So yeah, if he wants to be my captain, I'll play with this guy because he's going to stick his neck out for me, and he'll run through a wall for me, and he does whatever it takes. And so, yeah, I'm 100% behind this guy. So for a young guy like Chris and a young guy like Tyler and even Sky, they had to look at Jeremy this year a little differently than last year. Last year wasn't really great.
All of Earth does, Mike. I think the entire pool world looks at Jeremy with a newfound level of respect. And if you didn't know, who he was or maybe what his resume is like, you certainly got a glimpse of what kind of heart the man has. And nobody will ever be able to take that away from him, win, lose. It doesn't matter, because Jeremy Jones really showed what he's made of. He showed that he's the definition of a leader. In every aspect, no matter what, how you want to go and define it, Jeremy goes and lives up to it. I agree 1,000%. He unless something just ridiculous happens, he's got that job for the foreseeable future. But I think that if let's say we're in, a quote unquote normal year, Mike, I think there's going to start being expectations, at least in the next 2 years, of you got to start, getting it more competitive, especially if you're able to kind of get his team, get the guys that he wants in there and get, what he believes is the best 5 Americans to go and battle up against those Europeans. And on the note of those Euros, what a performance by Jason, huh?
Yeah. He played great. He played, I think he learned a lot from 2018. When he was over there, and he was so amped. He was too amped up. He was too into it. He was too into the crowd. He made some mistakes, lost a couple matches that he might not usually lose. And I think last year I almost just throw out the window. Last year he played great. Last year he was phenomenal, but last year's event to me almost didn't happen. So this year he did. He was very under control.
It almost
and
didn't
still
happen.
Embraced. He still embraced the crowd and embraced the moment and loved it, and kept the players pumped up and kept the players going. But when he was at the table, he was a little more dialed down, a little more reserved while he was taking all his shots. He wasn't dancing between shots like he's done in the past. Hats off to him. I mean, he came through. He was just rock solid.
Yeah, absolutely. His level of focus and intensity was just phenomenal. His execution was, I'd say, right there with Sky, because they both really bared down and put the ball in the hole whenever they needed to. Of course, Jason was on the winning team, but you can tell he wanted it. He wanted to beat Sky. He started off 2-0 ahead. He definitely had moments to make it 3-0 or even 3-1, even 4-1 or 4-2 rather. No, because it ended up being 2-2. He wanted it, Mike, and maybe his emotions kind of got the better of him. He had a couple of really uncharacteristic misses, and then of course that miscue. But boy, he he's that team's leader as far as the
Yeah.
player goes. You know,
Yep.
everybody goes by Jason. Everybody respects him. I saw him out there a lot, kind of giving. I think he's the one who can kind of, give Josh advice because of Jason's resume in those spots.
Of course. Yeah, no, Filler listened to Jason all day long. And so, yeah, no, he's that guy for them, and he's going to be that guy for them for a number of years. I know he was a little worried about, getting that pick this year. If he wasn't MVP last year, would he have gotten to pick? He's going to play as often as
everybody wrong, because there was a lot of people, and I know I had that thought at times as well, where it was like, is he deserving to be, to be on Team Europe? And I mean, he smashed it, Mike.
He did. He did. I mean,
he thrives in those moments.
Yeah. Yeah. You can't always go, the Moscone Cup's such a different animal. You can't go by who was playing the best during the year and all that kind of stuff. Players that you got, and you know what they can do for your team. So, yeah, Jason's, yeah, he's gonna be there for a few years, so get used to him.
Yeah. Is anybody else's spot secure besides his?
On Europe?
Yeah.
Josh, I would think.
Yep.
I think Josh is probably the guarantee. Albin is such a rock solid player, but I don't think he's a guarantee. So if they go to 3 spots for points based on the Matchroom thing, then Albin's going to have another year like this to get in.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Albin just won everything, so it's easy to kind of go and give him that spot. And given the fact that he was a world champion, I mean, he won just so many titles this year. But there were times out there where he, frustrated was an understatement. We saw that at the beginning of the year with the CLP. But he does come clutch in big moments, Mike, and you can never go and rob him of that. But I think that I'm with you. I don't think anyone besides a Josh or a Jason is going to be guaranteed, but I do think that they are certainly going to be locked in, which leaves 3 opening spots for Team Europe. And
it's tough. It's a tough pick, boy, because
so many guys out there, Mike.
Look at a guy like David. I was so happy for him that he made it this year. I mean, he's been such a rock solid player in Europe for so many years, and he can't get on this team unless he wins points. Right. He's never been a captain's pick, that type of thing. So, and I think that that's probably the way it's going to be for the future. He's going to have to earn his way on every year. And he's such a good player and such a solid player. So you have guys like him who are not guaranteed a spot. Fader's not guaranteed a spot. Albin's not guaranteed a spot. Kachi, definitely not guaranteed a spot. I
think he may have to go and win something big, Mike,
Yeah. I think the only reason he got on this year was the World 10 Ball. That's the only reason he got, because I think that Alex, as team players go and being enthusiastic and being like in the moment, I think that, my gut tells me Alex would have rather had Federer. But you don't.
I heard as much, Mike.
And you just don't tell the World 10 Ball champion you're leaving him at home to take someone who hasn't won a big event this year. So, right. I understand, but it didn't hurt him. It could have, but it didn't. So yeah, I think Kachi's got to point his way on next year.
Well, I think he's got to win something other than the World Pool Masters, because even that win for Kazakis didn't go and get him a spot on there. Nope. And Alex has mentally gotten a lot stronger, it seems like, over the last, let's say, 12 months. So I think it's a really good problem to go and have.
Yeah, it's an abundance of riches, boy. That's for sure.
Yeah. But their core is pretty much set, and I think, if let's say they got 4 guys and Albin's not there, they're probably going to go and lean on him just because of his experience in big spots and his Moscone Cup winning percentage, So it's just, it's a really good problem to have. Either way, 11-6 is going to be, what the history books will go and say. But man, this was a hell of a Moscone Cup. I really think that the Americans showed a lot of toughness. I think there's plenty of room for opportunity to go and improve on a number of different aspects. And I hope they go and address it, like the Shane situation and all that. But more positives than what I felt like at the end of yesterday, Mike.
No doubt about it. No doubt. Like I said, started the show. I felt a lot better today than I did yesterday, even though we lost. So, a lot of positives walking out of there for Team USA. And, we'll see what happens next year in Vegas.
I'm looking forward to it, Mike. I know I'm going to be there, and you're definitely going to be there. So
I'm going to be there.
We hope more of you guys in the chat are going to be out there. It's going to be at Bally's, I think, November the 30th through December, 2nd, Mike? something like that.
1, 2, 3.
Second
No,
or
through the
fourth,
third.
or
Through the third. So it'll be 4 days, right? Yeah.
There you go. 30th through the 3rd. So I'm looking forward to it. Mike, I appreciate for you joining us, all week long. It's really been a joy. It's been a hell of a Moscone Cup, Mike. I mean, I'm still a little buzzing, after everything, because it's been that kind of excitement for me all week long.
A lot of talking points and a lot of dramatic things, and certainly having the fans back, although they were way out of control,
for sure,
was a big factor. It gave you that vibe again. It's like, yeah, okay, this is what makes Moscone different. All excited for next year for sure.
Well, we'll hope to see everyone. And again, thanks again for tuning in, everyone. And Mike, we'll holler at you later. And everyone, thanks again.